So we're gonna really get into how to support your anxious child. So you could be listening to this if you're a parent, a guardian, big sibling, big brother, big sister. You know, if you've got a sibling that is struggling with anxiety, if you're a counselor, if you're anybody out there and you are connected to somebody that is experiencing anxiety in their life, and that individual is a child, these tips, if you will, words of recommendations, words of support, I think they can be applicable, and you can certainly use them. One of them being letting them know that they're safe. Using those very words, you are safe with me. And I think what's wonderful about that is that sometimes it's overlooked. I'm a parent, and as a parent, I have this idea that my kids know they're protected, my kids know they're safe. I don't have to go out of my way and say, Alex, you're safe. And I think to myself, well, why not? How many of us grow up in a household and maybe our parent doesn't say, I love you? Yet in their mind, they feel that they love us. And because of, all the things that they're doing, I still feel it's this hole that we can fill. And the hole comes in when we verbally engage with our child, and verbally say, hey, you are safe with me. It opens up dialogue. It could lead to further conversation and communication. So something to explore there. If you have an anxious child, that's one encouragement there to practice. The other is to go into it's okay to feel nervous. Letting them know it's okay to feel nervous versus, if you notice that your child maybe is getting nervous going to school and you say, suck it up. Just go in there. Everybody else is doing it. Just pretend like you're okay. Really steering away from those words. We as adults, right, we won't want to hear that. So being able to connect with our kids, yes, like I shared in the first one, letting them know that they are safe, taking time to say, it's okay to feel nervous, and maybe exploring that. What does nervousness look for you? With my son, whenever he goes to school, sometimes he'll say, my stomach hurts. And that's a classic one, classic. Kids, even adults, sometimes we go, oh, my stomach hurts. And I find it classic because it really highlights a strong symptom of anxiety. Whenever someone, specifically a child, whenever kids feel anxious, they usually connect it to their body. And that's kind of like your body letting you know. And I think as adults, as parents, we really want to take a step back and think about that. If I think about myself as a dad, and I think about, well, what happens when I feel stressed? Well, I get some shoulder pain, I get a headache, and a lot of us relate on that, right? We get some head tension. So we got to think about that. Our body talks to us. Our body speaks to us and say, hey, things aren't going well right now. So for our kids, the body does the same thing. And that's another strategy I want you to implement. If you get some time, if your child's feeling anxious, ask them, is your body doing anything different? Like, do you notice that your stomach's hurting? Maybe you're getting a headache. Do you feel sick? Do you feel lightheaded? Do you feel weak? Really going over some of those symptoms. And if they say, yeah, my stomach hurts, then go, well, what's going on there? What led to it? And that can open up a dialogue. Now, of course, you're welcome to work with a clinician, work with a counselor. If you're here in the Greensboro area, you can always hit one of our counselors up at the Santos Counseling Practice. We'd love to support. I'm sure there's counselors in your area too that are able to help. Just really getting on a Google search and seeing who's a good fit. As a side note, most counselors do like a 15-minute free consultation. So you're able to get on the phone with them and ask all of those questions. Ask them what's their specialty and so forth. Now, kind of getting back to things you can say to an anxious child. Next tip I want to go into is sitting with them. Sitting with them and just being there. Now, this one's an interesting strategy because sometimes we don't think about it. In the clinical space, like in the clinical world, when you're working with a therapist, you go into a session and you sit. And sometimes in these sessions, the therapist is silent. They don't say anything. And what happens is that the silence becomes like a way of peace and calmness. It's almost like the silence in an interesting way. It's like the silence before a storm, right? You're kind of sitting around outside and it's quiet, but then all of a sudden all this rain comes out. So what happens sometimes in therapeutic sessions is that when we sit with a patient, we're letting them know there's a judgment-free zone. I'm not here to criticize, I'm not here to attack you. I'm here to, hold space with you, to show love, to show unconditional kindness, to be here, to walk with you, to support you. And having that openness, it tends to allow an individual to share, to open up dialogue, to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. So as a parent, if you notice that your child's struggling with some anxiety there, some worry, even the level of stress that concerns you as a parent, being able to schedule like dates with them. With my kids, what I do is I try to at least once a week, I go out with one of them, get some ice cream, something like that. And we'll sit and just chill. And with that silence, they start to talk. They start to say, blah, blah, blah is going on. This is happening. And then from there, I get to learn more, right? They're inviting me into their life, into their space. And I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm trying to get to know them and learn these little areas of their life that maybe they hadn't opened up to. And then again, you can do the same thing from your end as a parent. The last tip, my friends, before you head out, when it comes to things you can say to an anxious child, this one has to do with teach them how to breathe. One of the easiest strategies and common ones is you pretend like you got a straw in your mouth, right? So a straw is about the size of this. I'm going to stick my finger in there because I'm just not going to do that. Now, you share with them, and you can even get a straw. And you say, imagine you have a straw in your mouth, and then you're going to inhale. And then when you exhale, your lips are going to be curled almost as if you have a straw, right? So then you exhale. And I get that we breathe all day long. I completely get that. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, I don't need to know deep breathing. I breathe all day long. I'm alive. And I get that. I completely get it. The style of breathing is a little bit different because it's purposeful. Right now I'm breathing and I'm breathing to stay alive. But if I stop and I inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. And I want you to try that. What happens is that you feel your chest rise. You feel little aches and cracks in there, at least with my body. It's getting old. I feel little things in there, crack, right? And when I exhale, I feel like I'm releasing. But when I'm just speaking to you, I don't feel that same sensation. And that's what you can do with your kids. You can sit down with them and you can say things like, imagine that anxiety is this energy ball inside you. And what you're doing is you're getting it from inside you, it's in your stomach, and then you're inhaling it all the way up, and you're bringing it up to your chest, and then you're saying, get out. And that visual can help kids too. It helps adults as well. It helps me, to be able to visualize kind of what you're doing. It's a little side note. It's very popular with like athletes. You got athletes who are sitting on the bench, but they're visualizing what they're going to do before they even do it. Increases performance effectiveness. Allows a person to feel more confident, more stable, more ready. And with our kids, we can give them that same blessing, that same opportunity. So I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, like, subscribe, share. This is a YouTube channel focused on making mental health simple. I think sometimes when the topic of mental health comes in, there's a lot of clinical jargon that can kind of be a little bit, over our heads, if you will, or it just doesn't make too much sense. So I've always found it, just me being me, I've always found things to be a little bit easier whenever we can make them simple and applicable. So I hope that you're learning and growing here with me. I'm learning and growing with you. I do not know everything. Don't claim to know everything. I like to read and learn as much as I can and go to conferences and seminars and webinars and sit with pioneers and experts, just so that whenever I'm showing up as a clinician for my patients, I feel like I'm doing a good job. And then here, when I'm sharing tips and tricks and savvy things you could try out with you, I feel that I'm showing up authentically and genuinely. All right, my friends, take care.